Welcome to the Sailing and Cruising the East Coast of the United States podcast. I'm Bela and Musits. This episode is part of a series I recorded with Mike Malekoff during our sailing trip up the East Coast. We were relocating his Hunter 44 Deck Salon from Brunswick, Georgia to Burlington, Vermont. Please note that the video version of this podcast primarily features photographs and short video clips I captured along our journey. The audio was recorded on the boat, typically in the evenings at anchor or in a marina, although we did record a few segments while underway. Join Mike and me as we explore the United States East Coast aboard his Hunter 44 Deck Salon. I hope you enjoy this podcast. Well, Mike, here we are. We made it through 2 days of being in the Atlantic Ocean, 2 consecutive days, so a total of 48 hours, 2 overnights. This is the first time you and I did overnight together. Oh, no, it isn't. The first day on our trip was overnight together. That was
always confident, usually wrong.
It was so memorable. I have forgotten all about it.
Yeah. That was a day to forget, actually.
Exactly. So we left Safe Harbor Blue Water Marina in Hampton, Virginia 2 days ago, and we are now sitting at American Highlands Marina, which is commonly known as...
Did you say American? Atlantic.
Atlantic, yes.
Highlands.
I'm sorry.
Hey,
I have Atlantic written down, but
it's a long American. 2 day. What day is it, by the way?
I don't know. It's Friday evening. Atlantic Highlands Marina in what most people call Sandy Hook, New Jersey.
Correct.
So we made it all the way up here. We did one fuel stop in Atlantic City. And you might ask, why do you need to do a fuel stop? You're on a sailboat. You want to answer that question, Mike?
Because you don't sail when you're moving a boat. Yes, it's something that we've encountered, and we've actually kept track of time. But we did break our record during this trip on the ocean, because earlier, our first overnight, we did 7 minutes of motor sailing, not sailing, but motor sailing. This time we did actually, for the very first time in well over 500 miles, we turned the engine off and did sail for at least 45 minutes.
No, it's longer than that. It was a couple hours.
Couple hours?
Remember, I took a nap, and I didn't hear you.
Right.
I didn't hear you
scrambling with the sails when I called
right.
down and said, "Bailey, get up here and help me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
did.
I think it was several hours.
Yeah, and it was very nice to finally turn the engines off, but it didn't last long. But we did. We started out in Hampton, and I think seriously though, we spent considerable amount of time discussing what our options are with the trip, because as everyone can appreciate, it is weather dependent on when you go and where you go. And we were in Hampton, Virginia, which is at the entrance to Norfolk and adjacent to the Chesapeake. So we had planned 2 options of one, going outside, and our plan was to go from Hampton to Cape May, New Jersey, which is about 150 miles. I guess I should probably look at that. 155 miles outside. And then the other option was to stay inside, which was to sail up the Chesapeake, across what's called the C&D Canal, and then down the Delaware River to Cape May, which is a 2 to 3 day trip, but is all inside. And I'd recommend to anybody that's planning on sailing, whether it's outside, inside, is really looking at the different options that you have, and the apps that are available today. Some good, some maybe you can get I shouldn't say overconfident, but you can overwhelm yourself with information, and you need to make that decision. And we were all ready to go up the Chesapeake. That was going to be our decision, because outside it just looked like the waves were going to be a little bit too tall and hitting us on the beam. And we certainly experienced that on our first day of travel and our overnight of taking rather large waves on the beam that just really rocked us. So we were a little gun shy, I would say. But the last 12, 14 hours, it looked like everything changed. And we made the decision to go outside and go to Cape May. And it turned out to be so good outside that we didn't stop at Cape May, and we just kept on going.
Yeah, and the reason this part of the trip requires a bit of planning is because if you decide to go outside, I believe it's called the Delmar Peninsula.
Yes.
There's no place to stop and pull in. So you're committing yourself to either turn around and go back to where you came from or keep going to Cape May because there really is no place to hide.
There was one place, though, Ocean City, that you could, but again, remembering that we're going to be at night. So even if there are good places to go, as anybody knows, when you're on the ocean, going into an inlet at night is not highly recommended, especially if you're unfamiliar with it. But we did all this planning. We had looked at all these options, days, which way to go, when we could go. We made the decision. It was a glorious morning, I think, if I recall, when we got up in Hampton. We, the day before, got the boat completely ready, went over everything, did the engine checks, and we were ready to go. We actually were ready early to go. And as anybody knows, the best plans can go awry, because the one thing that we didn't do was we were leaving at little before, our plan was to leave a little before 8 to get over to the fuel dock that opens at 8 to fuel up and leave. And we get to the fuel dock, and Safe Harbor Blue Water, a big marina, the fuel guy says to us, "We ran out of fuel." Do you remember that moment?
I do. But it turned out okay. We had to wait about an hour. The fuel delivery truck was stuck in traffic, so they say. But the fuel delivery truck got there around 9 o'clock, and by 9:15 we were fueled up and pulling away from the dock. So it cost us about an hour delay.
And it really didn't impact us because we were planning to sail overnight. But I have coined a new phrase as we have been together now for several weeks, and I've come up with what's called Bela's Bits, which is bits of information that are very useful sailing. And the thing that Bela reminded me of that morning as we sat there having to wait, hopefully, for a fuel truck is, we should have done this yesterday.
When it was how in the morning?
Very calm.
It was so calm we pulled our sails out because we had to make an adjustment for some equipment.
Correct.
It was so calm we pulled the sails out at the dock.
That's
and I
true.
said, "Mike, what, you want to go over and get fuel?"
And my answer was no, because then you got to untie everything. You got to get out of your slip. You got to go over to the fuel dock, come back. You got to redock. And jokingly aside, it is a lot of work to do that. But I think more importantly is what I gathered from this is if you have the time early on to do something and get it done, like refuel the boat, don't wait until the last minute if you can get it done early, because you were right. It was the one thing we didn't do. And fortunately, it wasn't a situation where we were on a tight time schedule, so we managed. But it was kind of frustrating. As the dockhand said, it's the first time in 10 years that they've run out of fuel at that marina.
So like all good Bela's Bits, they have multiple applications across various different scenarios. And so the fundamental piece of this is, if you can do something now that moves you forward, it keeps you moving, do it. And so after 24 hours of sailing, we're coming up on Cape May. And so now we make a decision. Do we go into Cape May, rest for a day, spend a day in Cape May, and go back out? Or do we keep going? And this was on Thursday morning is when we showed up in front of Cape May.
Sure, 24 hours.
Yeah, since departing Hampton. And the weather forecast looked good for Thursday, looked okay for Friday, but starting to turn in the second half of Friday, and Saturday looked really awful. So the same Bela bit was, hey, we have an opportunity to keep going. I know we're tired, but we can do it, and we kept going. And here we are now up in Sandy Hook, and really we have about 4 more hours of, I'll say, open water sailing across New York Harbor.
If not even that.
And after that, we're in the Hudson River. So the trip becomes a lot less dependent and influenced or driven by weather conditions and sea conditions than it has been up to this point.
Right. And I do credit Bela for pushing me on that decision, because I had mixed feelings, because the weather going into Friday had a bit of iffiness to it, and the worst decision you can make is second guessing the weather. But Bela said the seas were probably as calm as he's ever seen, and it was. There were just very slight rollers. We didn't have very much wind at all, but it was just a gorgeous day. And when we when I spoke to the Cape May Marina that we were going to stop at, I had to cancel our reservation there, and he says, I don't blame you. It's been the nicest day of the year so far. Keep going and good luck. So that's what we decided to do, and we went another 24 hours on relatively calm seas.
Yeah. So I will say that there was a period of time there. It was sunrise on Thursday morning. So we're going past Cape May, or getting ready to come into Cape May. I can't remember. But I had never seen the sea so flat. Sunrise came up. And you know how sometimes when they take a picture of a sunrise over a lake or something, it looks like a mirror, and you see two suns, and sometimes you can turn the picture upside down and it looks just as accurate as when it's right side up. This was the same way.
Yes.
It was just remarkable. We could have water skied out there. It was so flat.
Yes.
So that was interesting. So we decided to go all the way up to Sandy Hook, and let's talk about how we did watches. So
I was just going to mention that is the fact that if some of you have never done an overnight, or if you have, is obviously one thing that you have to be aware of, and to keep in mind, is that you have to really pay attention and be alert. And when you're sailing hour after hour after hour, sooner or later you need to take a break. And thing I'll put under Bela's bits is having specific times, watch times, that you take, and determining how long or short those breaks will be. I think Bela's had more experience with some overnights than I have. I only say this because the only overnights I've done was with my wife, and she's too nervous to go to sleep, and I don't need a lot of sleep. So the most I had ever done before was just one 24-hour period, so it doesn't bother me to stay up the entire night. But when you're doing multi-days like we did, Bela's suggestion was 3 hours on and 3 hours off. We started that during the day. We're both sort of up and taking maybe a short nap here and there, breaking the other person. But at night, we specifically went to 3-hour shifts. And I felt it worked really well. It gave me enough time to catch a quick nap, a bite to eat, nap for a little while. And yes, you're tired, but coming off my break, I felt fairly refreshed and alert, so that I could pay attention, because at night it can get confusing out there, especially off the coast of New Jersey, where you have a lot of lights coming off of the coast. I think I told Bela when I first came down the Jersey coast at night, I went by Atlantic City, and it was so lit up that it confused you as to what was a boat, what wasn't a boat, a barge. So anyway, the brakes really made a lot of sense to me, the way we set them up, and I think it worked well, Bela.
Yeah, I agree. So we started at 6 o'clock in the evening. So one shift was 6 to 9, then 9 to midnight, midnight to 3, 3 to 6 a.m. And then during the day, we sort of did it loosey-goosey. And I think both of those days, I took 2 naps during the day. And this sort of reinvigorated my faith in my ability to do this, because the last time I did just a crew with just myself and another person, I really struggled to sleep, and this time it worked out quite well. And part of that may have been the seas were pretty flat, so it was pretty comfortable sleeping. You weren't rolling back, from one side of the bed to the other. So that part was pretty good.
And I think what's important also in taking breaks, in our case, there are 2 of us on the boat, is that it was clearly understood if there is a problem and you do need some help, never shy away from asking. That both of us said, if we're down below and we're taking a risk, if something happens, don't be afraid to wake us up, because if you need help and it's something that you can fix rather quickly, that's just something you have to do. The other thing, which Bela emphasized, and I was aware of, but he re-emphasized it, when one person is down below sleeping and the other is in the cockpit, you do not leave the cockpit by yourself without that other person being there, because as I was taught, if you go overboard in the ocean, you die, and especially if you're by yourself in the cockpit. So if something, and I did need help at one point with the sails, and it required me to go out of the cockpit, I did bang on Bela's door and said, hey, I need some help here.
Yeah, and I think this notion extends the notion of waking up the person who's sleeping. You should think about that very broadly. And what I mean by that is, it's not just if you need to leave the cockpit. It's not just if something's broken and you need to fix it, but also if you're unsure of something. If you see some lights that don't make sense to you, or you see something on the horizon and you can't quite figure out what it is, or anything, just go wake the other person, because two brains most of the time are better than one. So I just want to make it clear that it's not just about, I got to leave the cockpit, so I'm going to go wake you up. Mm-hmm. I'd much rather have you come wake me up and solve a situation, as opposed to being woken up.
Leave the cockpit, you're talking about going below for a minute, not leaving the cockpit to go out on the bow of the boat. Correct?
No, I was thinking, if you have to leave the cockpit, then you have to you leave the cockpit to go out to the foredeck, you summon your partner definitely.
Correct.
If you're on watch and you need to run below to pee, you don't have to wake me up.
Correct.
Unless you're a really slow peer.
Because when you said leave the cockpit,
I meant to the
bathroom or
right.
Down below to grab something.
Yeah,
to drink.
if you need to go grab, because you can see, you get good visibility 3 miles. We were typically between 3 to 5 miles offshore, so we could always see the lights of shore, which I have mixed feelings about, because they oftentimes are very confusing. And I have a really difficult time calculating distance in my brain, particularly at night when you see a light. It's like, particularly if there's other lights behind it, it's really challenging for me to kind of sort how close they are.
And when we were coming into Sandy Hook at the northern part of New Jersey, you were on relief. I was steering the boat at that time, and I had to begin to navigate the channel into Sandy Hook at night at 3:30 in the morning. Obviously a little bit tired, but I was dealing with the lights of New York City in the background, and trying to discern the markers and stuff. But I could have called Bela, but it turned out it was relatively easy. The charts were very clear. I was able to do that without much trouble. But I knew that if I had to, I could have called Bela up to help me point out the markers.
And it's important that when you're doing a trip like this, that you talk about these things in advance. So there's a good understanding and agreement between all the parties involved that this is how we're going to handle this stuff. And that's, I just think you need to talk about it in advance and figure it out. And the two of you, if there's just two of you or if there's three of you, you'll come to a good plan. And it's okay to modify it. Let's say you were on our second day, if one of us said, no, let's try 4 on and 4 off this time. Sure, we'll try it and see how it works. Mm-hmm. Right? So none of these things are cast in stone. The other thing I want to talk about that some people may worry about is seasickness. So I'm a firm believer in using the patch. You get these little patches. You got to get a prescription from your doctor. I forget, there's some kind of medicine in it. You put the little Band-Aid, it looks like a round Band-Aid behind your ear, and it releases some medication into you, and it's good for about 3 days. So I have always used those on any ocean trip that I take. So I really don't know if I get seasick, but that's not an experiment I'm willing to try to do. These patches work very well for me. And Mike, you don't do anything.
I don't. And I made that clear to you, is that I just don't get seasick. And I'm saying this as I knock on wood. I have not had that problem my entire life. And I've been on boats where it has been really, really rough. And it just is just something that just doesn't bother me. So I don't use a patch, and this whole trip, the past 2 days, I was fine.
Yeah. So we're here at the Atlantic Highlands Marina in Sandy Hook, and I want to limit this to a short period of time because this can go on for a long time in talking about the marina. So we called on the radio. We have a reservation. We're coming in. Sometimes this is a pretty big marina, so it's difficult to figure out which pier they want you to pull into. Oftentimes, if there's a dockhand, you'll spot the dockhand. They'll be standing in front of the slip that they want you to go in. They'll be waving their arms, and it's very easy. It's very helpful. Okay, now I know this is where I need to go. And the dockhand is there to catch some lines. And even though we called at least twice on the radio, and they told us, oh yeah, there'll be a dockhand waiting for you, there wasn't. And that's a real disappointment, I'll tell you, because that's one of the things that you expect in a marina, that someone is going to come help you catch some lines. And they didn't do that. And so that part's been disappointing. So
and Mike was not very happy.
No, Mike, this is why I wanted to talk about it, because it could have turned into a 10-minute Mike rant.
and only for the fact is that, and I'll put this, I guess this would be a Mike bit as opposed to a Bela bit. I am overly communicative with the marina in advance, so that I actually know where I'm going and what the situation is like, when we're going to be there, will there be somebody there. So I had actually called twice the day before on the phone to talk to them about this. I called them on the phone from outside the marina because we had anchored for a couple of hours because we got here in the dark. And I called them to double check. And then even on the radio, I asked again and again. I got specific directions. But you go into a big marina, and it's very hard. And a lot of marinas don't mark their docks very well. So when they say you're on Pier 6 or 2, and you're going to be in slip 29, and you're down the third fairway, a lot of times marinas don't have any markings at all, and it's a lot of guesswork. So a good marina many times will have a person out at the very first dock that you'll pass sometimes, sort of to point and direct you. And the same with the person that's at your slip, normally will have a radio talking you in because they see that boat coming in. I'm 60 some feet high, so it's easy to see that boat and saying, yes, keep going, and turn left here. Anyway, I'm glad Bela did it because I was not very happy about it. And in addition, I didn't realize this when we came in, that Bela had not experienced going into a slip with no dock and only pilings. So that was another thing, is when you're pulling in and I'm backing in, is which line goes to which piling. And again, it's helpful to have a dockhand there to kind of talk you through what works best in their marina. So I will end my rant at that.
So what I do think is amazing is that the variability of this experience in coming into a marina. Mm-hmm. There are some marinas we pulled into where there was 3 people there waiting for us. And it was wonderful, right? And they were very helpful. They told you where the office was. Here, I'll walk up to the office with you. So some marinas are bent over backwards to make it a good experience for their customer. Others are not. So let's just leave that as it may.
And ironically, the last thing, which we had talked about, the 2 marinas where no one showed up to help us were the 2 most expensive. And that's why I was more frustrated than anything, is that this marina that we're at is not inexpensive, and yet with all the communication, they didn't show up to help us dock.
So it's Thursday evening right now when we're recording this. It's Friday evening.
Friday evening.
Friday evening.
When you're sailing overnight for multiple days, you lose track of the day. And I thought you would be fresh by now because we actually had your fresh ice cream this evening.
Yes, that ice cream was very good. It's wonderful I actually find it wonderful not to know what day it is. It's a benefit of being retired. So tomorrow, Saturday, looks kind of ugly around here with some high winds. And our plan right now, subject to change, as you have all heard through this series, is to depart here Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, and it's quite an experience to actually sail a boat through the New York Harbor under the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and through Manhattan up the Hudson with New York City in the background. So it should be fun, and our plan is to go to a marina called Half Moon Bay, which is about 50 nautical miles up the Hudson, and we will be departing no more ocean sailing or motoring.
Right.
As we have experienced, that we will now be inland on the Hudson all the way up to the locks to get to Lake Champlain.
So let's wrap this up. So thank you so much for listening. Hope you're enjoying this series where Mike and I discuss our wonderful trip from Brunswick, Georgia, all the way up to Burlington, Vermont. And we will sign off now, and we'll talk to you again after we have something to say.
Thanks, Bela.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to contact us at sailingtheeast, that's all one word, at gmail.com. That's sailingtheeast at gmail.com. Thanks for listening.